excuse me, we'll begin with the transmitting of Treasury warrants 7, 7A, 8, 8A, 9, 9A, 10, and 10A. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Made and seconded, all in favor? Unanimous? Move to the approval of the minutes of August 13, 2012. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Made and seconded, all in favor? Unanimous? Our 7 o'clock appointment is with Victor Huey, President of Pacific Sunshine, Inc., and it's regarding a public hearing relative to the request to transfer all alcohol license from Royal Dynasty, Inc., DBA Royal Dynasty, to Pacific Sunshine, Inc., DBA Pacific Grove, for property located at 217 Lowell Street. Good evening, sir. Gentlemen, have a seat here up at the table, if you would. I guess the first question is, did I pronounce your last name correctly? Okay. Oh, that's fine. That doesn't. All right. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. James DiGiulio for Mr. Hugh. I'm an attorney. I'm from Wakefield, 599 North Avenue, Wakefield 01880.
Thank you for attending this evening. If you could just give us an outline of what you're looking to accomplish, and we'll open it up to questions from the board.
Yes, thank you very much. Mr. Victor Hugh and his wife May Hugh are the president, treasurer, and sole shareholders of the corporation Pacific Sunshine, Inc. What they are seeking is a transfer of the all liquor license from the Royal Dynasty at the location of the property, 211 East Lowell Street in Wilmington. They are not seeking any change in capacity. They are not seeking any change in parking or hours. Just a straight transfer with no changes. Mr. and Mrs. Hugh currently hold a license in North Reading. They operate the China Cuisine. It's approximately 120-seat restaurant capacity. He's been involved in that restaurant since 1996, and him and his wife have owned it wholly since 2004. They are seeking to do some renovations, essentially changing the bar shape and to install a sushi bar. As well, they're going to be closing for approximately 1 to 2 months to do some renovations and some cleaning of the restaurant as well.
Very good. Before we move to the board, do we have any recommendations from the administration?
Yes, I think we also need to be clear on the address. In one notification, you list 217 Lowell Street, and the other one you list 211 E Lowell Street.
The fire department clarified our addresses. As most of you know, my dad started with a little corner store. It was 211 Lowell Street, and expanded many times. Since then, the fire department asked us to clarify it. Royal Dynasty's proper address is 211 E, as in eat, Lowell Street, so that the fire department could address a fire if we had a problem in the shopping center.
Well, okay, we're going to have to work that out, because the address on the license, and including the application that was submitted by Mr. Huey is 217 Lowell Street, and the license itself is listed at 217, so we'll need to just work that out.
Yeah, excuse me. Should we say that? Actually, when I fill out my application, we do have 211E Lowell Street.
Well, just so I know what I'm looking at.
Right. The cover sheet on the Town of Wilmington application references 217, but certainly we have map and parcel number. We're clear on where the Royal Dynasty currently exists, so I don't expect that's a showstopper, but certainly it's something we'll need to address for public safety reasons and other reasons.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the ABCC has it correctly, because they're the ones that can be sticklers on this if they come back and say that there's two different locations, so we'll just work that out. Specific to your question, Mr. Chairman, the police department has indicated that they reviewed the application for the transfer of the license submitted by Victor Huey to the town of Wilmington. The police department has conducted a review of interested parties in the entity listed and recommends approval of the transfer license request. We also have a favorable response from the building inspector indicating that there are no outstanding zoning issues. The health director recommends approval of the transfer of the all alcohol license. And I would only note, and you'll certainly have plenty of time to do this, but you will need to get a common victular license also, and that application should come through the Board of Selectmen's office. And we need the green cards, Mr. Chairman, the mailing from the abutters.
Okay. I see them in front of Mr.
Yes.
Hugh. Mr. Hugh, if you'd like to provide those green cards
Sure.
at this time, we'll take them from you.
Okay.
And I would also indicate, but thank you, sir, both to the applicant and to council, if you have not already reviewed the local regulations regarding the service of alcohol, you certainly would want to do that, in that we have a couple of regulations that you may not consider to be commonplace, such as service with eating and seating being provided, et cetera. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I read the packet. Everything's in order. I don't have an issue making the transfer and granting the permit.
And just to be clear too, Mr. Chairman, we're just transferring the liquor license right now. We're not talking about any renovations or anything.
Correct.
Okay.
My comment was just stated by Selectman Semaglia with reference to any renovations, that's a separate process with the town, and then we're specifically talking about the license.
Yeah, if I may, I know it falls outside of what our jurisdiction tonight is to vote on the transfer of the liquor license, but if I might just inquire, since we have you here this evening, so your intent will be to rename the restaurant, will in the future be known as Pacific Grove instead of what we've known it as? Am I correct in that?
Yeah, that's correct.
It is, okay. And similarly, is your intention to run it in the familiar fashion, the way that we know it now as a Chinese cuisine restaurant, or what do you foresee any kinds of changes in the kind of restaurant that it is today?
Yes, we're going to put a sushi bar in that area, in the bar, inside the bar, because that's the only, suitable place that we put it, and we just make it to have some people more friendly to go there. Yeah, because we're going to spend some money to do all the renovation to make it more attractive and provide a very comfortable, environment for the customer.
Do you have a timeline? Do you have a schedule for what you hope to achieve?
So we're going to, because when we have the sale and purchase agreement, it depends on the liquor license available. So if we approval for the liquor license, and then we're going to finally do the transaction, and then we spend maybe 1 or 2 months. It depends on, as you know, the contract at the time frame also. If everything's smooth, hopefully we can get it within 1 month, so that we can open. After, as I talked to the health director in the town, Shirley, yeah, we agree that we need to keep the kitchen very clean, do a power wash, and fix up all the whatever that need to be done to abide by the health code. So that's what we're going to do also.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hugh. I have no more. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the applicant?
Nope, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience? Hearing none, why don't we entertain a motion from the board, and if we could have that motion specifically be subject to specification of the precise address, which is currently the location of the Royal Dynasty
Mr.
Inn.
Chairman, I'd offer that motion. I move that we transfer all alcohol license from the Royal Dynasty, Inc., doing business as Royal Dynasty, to Pacific Sunshine, doing business as Pacific Grove, for property located at 211 Lowell Street, subject to the proper location and all permits relative to the town.
Second.
Okay, we'll accept that as 211-E, I think, right? Okay, made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor? It's unanimous?
Good luck, sir.
Thank you so
May-
much.
may I just-
Thank you.
Yes.
In the event that the ABCC wants the license to reflect 217, can we consider that that motion would cover that as well? I think
that was,
they're in.
yeah, the intent of the motion was 211-E Lowell Street being the Royal Dynasty, subject to whichever specific address is worked out between the town and
Okay.
the applicant and ABCC.
I just don't want to hold them up with the ABCC,
I-
and
Yeah, I agree. That
Okay.
certainly was, that was my
Yeah, I
intent
don't
when I
have a
asked for
problem with
motion.
that. Obviously, don't want to see it held up at all.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, if the ABCC requires any specifics on it, would we be able to perhaps amend the application and put an AKA on for the address? If that's some documentation perhaps ABCC may require?
We'll put it this way. Here's what I would suggest, and I don't think we have a problem in terms of the publication. As I flip through this, I see that the ABC manager application form has 211-E. It's this cover sheet for the town of Wilmington, which says 217 Lowell Street. But I think the record includes the map and parcel number of map 57, parcel 52. And I think this record will be clear that we're referring to the specific location of the current Royal Dynasty, and that's part of this record. That's the board's understanding. We all have agreement on that, right? So I really think it's form over substance, but we're trying to make sure that the record is clear, that we understand there may be two also known addresses, and the board has no objection to whichever one is used.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
so
Mr. Chairman.
much.
Thank you, Selectman.
Our 7:10 appointment is scheduled with Joseph Devlin, Esquire, the DeMarcus Law Offices, on behalf of 99 Restaurant of Boston LLC, doing business as 99 Restaurant and Pub, and it's regarding a public hearing relative to the request to transfer the issuance of stock, new officer/director, and new stockholder of the all-alcohol license for property located at 144 Lowell Street. Good evening, sir. I think we're clear on your address. It may be the corporate structure you need to explain to us.
Mr. Devlin is not here. I'm Marty McDonald. I'm the general managing partner at the 99 Restaurant.
Is that MC or MAC, Mr.
MC.
McDonald? All right, good evening again, sir. If you could just give us an overview on what the 99 Restaurants is doing and what changes there are in the corporate status that brings you before us.
Okay. The 99, which has been part of the O'Charlie's restaurant brand for better part of a decade now, was purchased by another company called Fidelity National Trust. And there's really no changes to the restaurant. We're still being operated by O'Charlie's. There's just another layer of management and officers up above us at that higher level. We've become part of a we were a group of 3 restaurants, and now we've become part of a group of 7 restaurants within that Fidelity National brand.
Okay. And based on those comments, we to assume then that there's no change in management at the location here in Wilmington as a result of this transfer?
That's correct. No changes actually in the entire 99 company, but certainly the restaurant and here in town is no changes.
Okay, do we have any recommendations from the administration, Mr. Becker?
Everything is in order, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, hearing none. Questions or comments from the audience? Seeing none. Do we have a motion from the board?
I would move to approve, gosh, how does this read? Transfer issuance of stock, a new officer and director, and new stockholder of all alcohol license for the property located at 144 Lowell Street.
Second?
Made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor? It's unanimous. Good evening, sir. Thank you, and continued good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, everyone.
7:15 appointment is scheduled with Christina Stewart, the library director, and it's regarding a library-sponsored community fair. Good evening, Mrs. Stewart.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to talk to you about the library's third annual community fair that's scheduled for Saturday, September 22nd, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on the Swain Green. I believe you've all received one of the brochures promoting the fair, and most of the details are in the brochure. We have, once again, over 30 nonprofit organizations that will be participating in the fair, and the goal of the fair, as in the past 2 years, is to bring together the nonprofit organizations, to connect Wilmington residents with these organizations, to learn about the services they offer, and volunteer opportunities for people who may want to get involved in their community and join with these organizations. We also will be having this year a Town of Wilmington information table, and of course the police and fire departments will be there. Health Department, Recreation Department, Elderly Services will be on hand with information about their services, and they'll be there to answer questions. And also the town clerk's staff will be there to do voter registration. And also Town Manager Mike Kyra and Assistant Town Manager Jeff Hull will be there from 10:30 to 12 noon to talk to residents and to give residents a chance to wish Mike well in his retirement and thank him for his service to the town, and to meet our new town manager, Jeff Hull. So I think that would be a nice opportunity for people to stop by. And the Community Fund and local heroes will be accepting donations at their respective table, and if anyone's interested in finding out what they need, they could check those organizations' websites. Other activities that day include some of the organizations are bringing gift basket raffles, and the Friends will be selling raffle tickets for those baskets. We're going to have some of the vendors from the farmers market will be on hand will be there. Not all of them. We'll have a few of them there this year, since their regular day is Sunday for the farmers market. The shredding truck is going to be back, so clean out your files, and they'll be there for bulk shredding. It's free to everyone. The Friends, again, I want to acknowledge the Friends of the Library for funding some of these services, so it is free for residents to bring their shredding truck, and the shredding truck will be there rain or shine. If, in case of inclement weather, the event does have to be canceled, but the shredding truck will be there. We also have a roving magician this year, Joe Ferrante. He's a local Wilmington resident who'll be on hand to perform magic tricks. Mom's Club will have a free face painting, and our children's librarian, Barbara Robb, will be there for story time on the half hour. And also returning is our henna artist for free henna tattoos. And this event, again, coincides closely with the anniversary of the town, which was town was incorporated in September 25th, 1730. That's a good trivia question for trivia night. And so we are celebrating the 282nd anniversary of the town. So we have a few other events to kind of spark community spirit. We have a Wilmington Through Art contest, and we have received 3 paintings, and they're in my office, so we're hoping to get a few more. But there'll be cash, first, second, and third place cash prizes, and we're really hoping that the purpose is is Wilmington Through Art, and people can submit their artwork that with the theme of Wilmington. And those paintings will be on display at the library from September 17th through September 22nd, and we'll be announcing the winners after the fair. We're also going to be collecting oral history. Our technology librarian is going to be videotaping anyone who has lived in town for a long time and wants to tell us about their memories of growing up in Wilmington, about the schools or where they went for ice cream and what Wilmington was like 30, 40, 50 years ago. So we want to try to document some of the oral history. So from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., they can stop by the library, and then when we videotape them, we'll be able to post those on our website. The town crier is we have digitized it. As you know, the Wilmington Rotary Club, thanks to their generous funding and funds of the library and some state aid funds, we were able to get this project to fruition and got it off the ground this past summer. And so Curtis, I'm going to really acknowledge the hard work and really the talent of our technology librarian, Curtis Wyant, and my assistant director, Charlotte Wood, who really did yeoman's work to get this project done. And Curtis will be demonstrating the how to access the crier that afternoon at 3 p.m. in the band room at the library. So I think this is a great contribution to the town to have these files, really the paper of record for the town, digitized. And hot off the press, A History of Wilmington, a coloring book. This was spearheaded by Assistant Library Director Charlotte Wood, and she worked with Jen Fiddler, the head of the art department at the high school, and many of her art students did the sketches for the book. Terry McDermott, town curator, did the narrative, and it's really, I think, a great publication for the town. The Friends will be selling this at the fair for $5, and they're on sale now at the library, the bookstore next door, and at the Hardin Tavern. So we're really quite proud of that publication. And just in closing, I know many people, not so many, or some people think that the public library is not a valuable resource to a town in the age of the internet. But I think the community fair does exemplify the kind of event that brings a unique value. The public library does bring a unique value to the town. I think it demonstrates that the library can provide information by bringing the community together. It can also spark a sense of really civic pride by having the contest, like the Wilmington Through Art contest this year, and last year we did the cake decorating contest. And it makes accessible information like the digitized town crier that's really not available anywhere else in town. And we can publish documents like the history of the town in a coloring book to make it accessible to the youth of the town. And I think this event also makes our tagline, community starts here, really ring true. So I think, again, this is a really good example that the library does offer something special to the town. And just finally, on behalf of the Board of Library Trustees, the Friends of the Library, and the staff, I really want to take this opportunity to thank Town Manager Michael Kyra for his steadfast support and advocacy for the library during his tenure as town manager. As you know, we fought the good fight a couple of years ago for the library, but through the makeover and through the services, he has been a tremendous advocate for the library, and we do wish him well in his retirement, and we hope he will have lots more free time to enjoy the library and visit often in his retirement. So we thank him very much. So I'll be happy to answer any questions, and if anyone in the audience wants a brochure, I have extra.
I was just quickly counting the number of participating organizations, and I got well into the 20s, almost 30, I think.
Yeah.
And
There's some, I'm sorry, that got us late before publication that are not on here.
which happens.
Yeah,
And aside from the families who will participate, just the organizational participation that you have, I think, speaks volumes to the resource that you offer to the town.
Yeah,
So thank you for that. Questions or comments from the board?
I've attended and participated in various organizations the last couple of years, and have been very impressed both with the attendance of the organizations as well as with the residents' participation. And I hope more residents will even come. As good as it has been in the last couple of years, I think it can be better, and I hope that this message will ring true. I'm not sure where to look. That being said, I got to tell you, while I look forward to visiting with every single one of the organizations and learning more about what they do, I'm really excited about seeing the shredding truck, because I got 2 years' worth of Selectmen stuff that I'm looking forward to getting rid of in a pile.
I hope everyone will be able to be there, all the board members can stop by.
Oh, it'll be great. It'll be great. But again, you said it very well in your closing statement. The libraries, our library and any library is kept relevant in our society, given all the digital technologies, through the hard work of the staff and the people in making these kind of avenues and these kind of events accessible to the community. It's more than books. It's about community, and I really admire what you're doing. I thank you for your efforts, and all of your staff for all of their efforts as well. So we'll look forward to seeing you there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'd like to echo your closing statements as well. What the work you've done and your staff at the library has been unbelievable in these last couple of years of doing this. And I'd also like to comment on this flyer. It's a beautiful flyer, and a lot of work went into that. And I think there's some outstanding pictures in the flyer too.
Well, like I said, a lot of what we have done at the library.
Where are you located on the flyer?
We couldn't have done it without the administrative support and the support of the community and the many friends and trustees to have the support we have.
Yes, Mr. Hayden.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that, because sometimes some people haven't been in town long enough to understand the history of what went on at the library. And I don't even remember the year, it's got to be 20 years ago, Mike, that we proposed to build a new library. And the town voted it down. I have to admit, I voted for it, but in retrospect, I'm glad that we didn't do that. Because what happened to the library staff, they energized themselves and they said, okay, we can't get a new library, and let's square away the old one. So a lot of the books that were in the library were shelved and put off somewhere, disappeared. You had the library, the bookstore next door was started as a way of taking care of some of those books and donations from other people. And the staff at the library was energized. It was incredible to watch. And we now have a very, very nice library. And in retrospect, fortunately, we didn't have to build another one. So I just want to say what a great job, Gina, you've done with your staff.
Thank you. It was 2005 that we went to the voters, but.
I wasn't going to say.
Anything else?
I just want to say thank you very much. I mean, you and your whole team, just, it's one thing to have an event, but to coordinate it and to get a lot of participants and to enlist the help of everyone in the town. And I know that you've enjoyed a very long relationship with Wilmington Public Schools, and a lot of that isn't always highlighted. And definitely over the last couple of years, I've noticed a real revitalization of your imaging and your marketing and trying to get out there to the general public and to cater to all ages, whether it's a youth or all the way up to our seniors. You have quite a full array of activities and things that people can get involved in. And I know the library has had its rightful place in my family in terms of bringing the kids there for story time and different events such as this. So I just thank you for your efforts in doing it on an annual basis and a daily basis. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Okay,
Have a good night. 7:25 appointment is with Michael Arpagonis, Police Chief. It's regarding the Law Enforcement Challenge and Recognition for Excellence.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chief.
Thank you for having me. Once again, this year, the Wilmington Police Department participated with their 2011 traffic data in the Massachusetts Law Enforcement Challenge. And that's a program put on by the Governor's Highway Safety Bureau, National Highway Safety Transportation Bureau, and Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. And what they do is they assess each department who submits an application on their application as far as education, traffic incentive programs, innovations that the departments have. And Wilmington was once again successful this year to take home the top gold honor. And I'm very proud to say that's even in light of the fact that at one point in time, I think we were down 7 personnel, which was, for me, I think, very impressive that every officer in the department stepped up. But the major congratulations go towards these two gentlemen here, along with Lieutenant Joe Desmond. Brian and Brian, matter of fact, we have another Brian that helps out with it, so they really put a lot of effort into the programs and the submission for the application. They have to collect a lot of data. They have to put it's almost a 1-inch binder together, complete with all of our traffic information, reductions in accidents, increases in compliance with safety belts, which is probably the primary goal of the Wilmington Police Department, is increase the education for folks to know that they have to wear safety belts every time they get in a vehicle. So they definitely save lives dramatically. So with all that, it speaks volumes towards the department's effort, and this is mostly their personal initiative. They really take a passionate role in this. You can always see many blue lights turning out there, and that's the primary goal. It's not harassment of the public. It's basically to identify people that are doing things that are unsafe, and that overall effort brings down traffic accidents, and it reduces speed in the neighborhoods. So, I'm very pleased that the department was able to do that, even with in light of their reduced numbers this year.
Questions or comments from the board?
I'll just make a quick comment. You're talking about Brian, and Brian. Well, I'll tell you, there's Mike, and Mike here, and Mike out there. So there's 5-3, so we overruled. But anyway, congratulations to you, Chief, and especially the guys on the front line who out there day in, day out. We appreciate all the service that you do, and once again, you step up to the plate. And this is not the first time you've been here, and I'm sure it's not going to be the last either. So we appreciate it, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, like Mike just said, congratulations again, and kind of stole my thunder. This is not the first time you've been here in front of us receiving these types of awards. I was lucky enough to go last year, and quite an impressive group of all the police forces throughout the whole state. And when you think about 365 or 360 or down to 1 to Wilmington, I appreciate all the work you guys do.
I also want to say thank you and congratulations. Certainly, I see you out in the town all the time, and I look for the faces so I can wave, but I think it's a testimony to the department, but also to be recognized among your peers. I mean, you think about it, you're up against other departments, and to have Wilmington come out in the forefront, I mean, not only as the officers as part of the department, but just it puts the face of Wilmington out there, and it shows a lot of pride in what you do. Putting on the uniform means something, beyond just doing your shifts, going above and beyond to see that recognition comes to the town. And I appreciate what you do, and I just want to say thank you and congratulations. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. It's interesting. You just reminded me of the fact that our application is now being used as the model in the school for the other departments that come in and look at it. And we competed with a lot of great departments, and Tewksbury and Reading were among those. And Tewksbury was able to win a gold a couple seats below us in this level. And I think it just gives us that little competitive edge to work harder for next year. This year and it's probably been 25 plus years since we've had a sobriety checkpoint in town. And we were able to successfully get one of those this year, working with the Massachusetts State Police. It was held over on Firestone the last week in July. Interestingly enough, in about a 2-hour period, we, in conjunction with the Mass State Police and Tewksbury PD, arrested 11 operators that were impaired at the time. So these deployment initiatives that we take, really, we're seeing. We had another one last Friday, and we ended up arresting 4 people. One of the individuals was a repeat offender for OUI as well. So, it really makes a difference. The folks are on the road, and we can't express our desire to reduce the amount of people that drive while they're impaired and intoxicated, as well as folks need to wear their seatbelts. So, thank you.
Chief, may I ask, is part of the award or part of the criteria the community outreach education and communicating safety concerns and anti-drunk driving messages to the youth of Wilmington as well, or is that not part of this?
Absolutely, Mike. That's one of the big parts of what we do. Brian Moon is in the schools almost every day. Brian Gillis is the SRO for the high school. We have Chip as well as Julie, and they're constantly speaking to the children about the need for occupant safety. That's one of the big things. These 2 gentlemen have been doing it for the past several years, a child passenger safety checkpoint at the station every Wednesday between 10 and 2, and we find that we get people from other communities that now know that we do that. And with budget cuts every place else, we've still been able to maintain that program, and it's really important, because folks just sometimes, if you've ever battled with getting one of those car seats in, you know how much of a struggle that can be. And these gentlemen do that amongst the Cheerios and the Fruit Loops and whatever else is in the backseat of those cars. I mean, they really get right in there and and they crank them in. And it's important, because if it's an improperly installed car seat is just as dangerous as probably not having one in some aspects. So, yeah, we're in the school every day. Wilmington enjoys having 4 personnel dedicated to school programs, which is, far and away what any other community does for our size. So, we're very proud of that as well.
As am I, as an elected official in this town. It makes it awfully nice when I go to a school function or whatever, and one of your officers is there, and it's clear that the kids enjoy having them there, and they're getting so much back out of those officers' presence. So thank you guys very much for your service, and I'm glad to know that that part of it is involved in this award, because it's certainly deserving of the attention. And in as much as I feel safe and secure every time I see the boys in blue riding around, I know that there's, for me personally speaking, and I think the rest of the town should feel comforted knowing that the folks, that your good folks, are working diligently to communicate safety messages to the kids. So thank you for your efforts, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Nice job dealing with the Fruit Loops in the front seat and the back seat.
Just, in addition to the recognition as being the top police department in the gold category, and the wonderful plaque, I'm not sure if you mentioned the other gift that you ended up receiving.
Thank you. The $1,500 Decatur handheld radar.
Cool.
Yeah, so it really helps. Last year, we had won a hard-mounted radar for a cruiser. We added a rear antenna, but those roughly around $3,000. It's with the budget crunch, everybody's, the gifts have gone down a little bit, but we're still very happy to get that, because the gentlemen use that every day out in patrol, so it really, really helps us a lot.
Thanks. I'll be careful going home.
Anything else? Again, thank you all for your time throughout the week, throughout the year, but especially tonight coming in and sharing the good news with us. Thanks.
Thank you.
Communications.
Mr. Chairman, just wanted to essentially provide some advance notice with regard to the design public hearing that will be held on September 24th at the board's next meeting. And we provided some information from the Massachusetts Department of Transportation regarding the intersection improvement, Route 62, Middlesex Avenue, Glen Road, Wildwood Street project. The purpose of the hearing, which will be outlined at the meeting in 2 weeks, and will be attended by officials from Mass Highway as well as the town's design engineer, is to provide the public with the opportunity to become fully acquainted with the proposed intersection improvements at that location. So all views and comments made at that hearing will be reviewed and considered to the maximum extent possible. The proposed project consists of the reconstruction of the Route 62 Middlesex Avenue and Glen Road intersection, and includes the installation of new traffic signals at the intersection of Route 62 and Middlesex Avenue and Glen Road, and the intersection of Route 62 Middlesex Avenue at Wildwood Street. Also, new traffic signs, drainage, and sidewalks will be constructed within the project limits, and they note that shared accommodations for bicyclists have been provided in accordance with all of the applicable guidelines. So this is just a note. As you know, the intersection itself experiences a high rate of accidents, which frankly is more than double the average of an unsignalized intersection in the District 4 Massachusetts Department of Transportation area. So there'll be the geometric improvements as well as a fully signalized intersection at this location. It'll also enable the town to complete the sidewalk network in this area by the connection of the Glen Road sidewalk with the Middlesex Avenue sidewalk in an area that is in the vicinity of the town's library and town common and the high school. The town committed to the project by hiring the engineering firm of Green International to conduct the preliminary engineering studies and the final design. The construction itself will be paid for through state funds, through the Department of Transportation. And the proposed project is estimated itself to take approximately 1 year, the complete project, at a cost of approximately $800,000. But all of that information will be provided at the design hearing, which is a requirement, as you know, and as the chairman had, I think, made the right call in having the meeting held at a Board of Selectmen's meeting to give it the maximum exposure as possible to the residents.
May I ask, I know that the discussion about this construction happened several years ago before my presence on this board. Is the hearing in a couple of weeks a repeat effectively of what was voted on by this board a few years ago, or is it to take up again or take up anew?
No, the decision was made
Right.
by the board, so they're now going to give you the specifics of the project. The initial decision was based upon the study, and as you may recall, the board voted 3-2 to support a signalization project over a roundabout type project at that location. And based upon that direction, the designer has come up with this design project, which has been approved and is going through now this process through the Department of Transportation.
All right, so we're not going back before
No.
and looking at that vote again. We're acting upon that vote now going forward.
That's correct.
Thank you.
And it's probably worth mentioning for the general public that the design at this point is 25% design, and the other thought that I had was to make sure that people understand they can either show up to the hearing or they can also submit written comments, and if anybody has written comments, they can certainly contact the town manager's office to figure out how to submit them. Anything else from the board?
You've got the date here, where and when?
Sure.
Well,
One moment. Was there anything else here from the board?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Bodnar, it's here on September 24th in this room. It's 7 o'clock, Mike, is what we decided.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The board has been provided a copy of the letter and correspondence from John McCarthy, the Executive Director of the Massachusetts School Building Authority, regarding the final grant letter for the Shawshene Elementary School window replacement project. As you can see, we have the final audit results. The project had been approved and completed for last year. The final construction costs were a little bit in excess of $830,000. Of that, $826,000 plus were eligible for reimbursement at the 48.47% rate, which meant the town received $400,742 for this project. So nearly half of the project was paid for by the MSBA state funds, which obviously turned out to be a very good project for the town. We had initially included in a borrowing authorization $720,000 for that project, but then went forward to the MSBA's Green Repair program and were able to get funded. And as a result, there was a significant savings for the town of approximately $300,000.
Wow. Thank you.
The board has correspondence that was sent from Attorney Joseph Tarby, the local counsel for the Dolben Companies, regarding the proposed truck route for the Ledges housing development in Woburn. You will recall that this has been on the board's agenda in the past, and we were working specifically with the company and with the city of Woburn to try to get a different route for the truck traffic. Attorney Tarby wrote that, as you know, I am local counsel for the Dolben Companies, the proposed developer of the above referenced project. This is a follow-up to our discussions over the past couple of weeks relative to the concerns expressed by you on behalf of the town of Wilmington on the proposed truck routes through the town of Wilmington. He writes that in reviewing your concerns, the Dolben Company has indicated that they would, in fact, commit to an alternate truck route through the town of Wilmington, which will direct traffic from Eames Street to the Commerce Way interchange via Presidential Way and not through the residential neighborhood on Woburn Street. And specifically, that's an alternate route. So their primary route is to go Route 38 to 125 in Woburn. Their secondary route, as you know, at one point, was to go into Wilmington down Eames Street and take a left onto Woburn Street. And we, the Board of Selectmen, vigorously objected to that, and we're pleased to indicate that there's been agreement not to do that and to use as a secondary route Commerce Way interchange via Presidential, which was the purpose for opening up that roadway in the first place, so that we could direct any kind of construction or industrial traffic in that direction away from the residential street. So I just want to recognize that Joe Tarby, who I've known for a long time and is a lawyer in Woburn, and it's one of those instances where we were able to establish a prior relationship, and he was willing to take the phone calls and help with resolving this particular situation.
Very good.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you for articulating our concerns about the transport of those materials, which there's going to be ample amount of, thanks to your hard work on our behalf. I think this is a substantial win for the town to keep those materials, by and large, off of Wilmington roads, and certainly to the extent that they are on Wilmington roads, they're pretty much exclusively in industrial areas and heading out towards 93 through the commercial area. So again, thank you. I think it's a win, especially for those folks on Woburn Street.
Thank you. Just want to bring to the attention of the board and the public this mosquito control update that we received from the Central Mass Mosquito Control Project, which, as the board understands, is the group through the state that organizes our mosquito control programs. We are a part of 25 different member cities and towns in this area, and they have made a number of collections of mosquitoes with West Nile virus and/or EEE in a number of those communities, and they have been doing the spraying in the residential and other areas. They have done as much intervention as they possibly can, and they indicate that even after spraying, that there's still a possibility that these mosquito-borne diseases may be present. I can tell you that we have had 2 incidences in Wilmington, no bites or anything reported. One that I had reported some time ago, and the more recent one was on Linda Road. And again, we immediately did contact the Central Mass Project and did some spraying. As a matter of fact, the spraying was done this past Thursday. They're going to continue to trap and test mosquitoes in town over the next few weeks, but their spraying program in the entire area will likely end after next week due to the low nighttime temperatures. But they will stay in touch with the Board of Health. Shelley Newhouse has been on this, and we follow all of the recommendations, and all of that information is on the website, and it's certainly been in all the newspapers. And we urge people to be just careful, particularly with young children, and making sure that they have the appropriate repellent. The board has an advisory from the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission regarding caterers' licenses, and we just bring that to the attention of the board that the ABCC is now issuing licenses directly to catering businesses for an annual fee of $1,500. This, any applicants also must apply for a transportation permit, which the ABCC also issues directly for a fee of $150. There is no fee that goes to the town for caterers, but if any licensed caterers are interested, they should contact the ABCC for information. Would note that a licensed caterer cannot sell or deliver alcoholic beverages at any events which occur in a licensed premise, for example, a restaurant, a hotel, or a club. We have correspondence from the Metropolitan Boston Housing Partnership regarding the Residential Assistance for Families in Transition program, and we just bring this again to the attention of the public that this program does provide short-term limited financial assistance of up to $4,000 to help families who have at least one child under the age of 21 who are homeless to moving into housing, and families also at risk of homelessness to retain their housing or otherwise avoid homelessness. Anybody interested in this information could contact the department, the Metropolitan Boston Housing Partnership, and they have a website which is www.mass.gov/DHCD, or if you'd like, you can certainly contact the town's Department of Planning and Conservation, which handles housing-related matters, and they can provide you with any of the information needed. The board also received a letter from Jennifer Earls and Brenton Thornycroft thanking them for their support of the recently held Kelly Family Benefit, and they notified us that a total of more than $9,400 was raised from this one event for the Kelly Family Fund. We also have a letter of thanks from Ashley Iber, the Community Executive from the American Cancer Society, regarding the town's support for the Relay for Life in Wilmington. It was a very nice letter indicating that this year they raised over $130,000 in this one particular event, and they also provided the town with again a very nice citation indicating their thanks for the town's support. Would remind members of the Board of Selectmen that they can register for the MMA's Fall Legislative Breakfast meetings. They begin on September 21. I know members of the board have attended in the past, as well as other folks from town government. The nearest location is in Billerica this year, and it is on October 19th. So if anybody's interested in signing up, they can do so, or they can contact Beverly, and she can make sure that they get registered. We have a letter from Jane Lyman from Comcast regarding channel lineup changes. They're informing us of several changes that will occur in the channel lineup. And again, they're required to do this. They include a move of WGBX HD and also some changes with New Hampshire Public TV programming. But anybody who is a part of the Comcast Xfinity network will receive that notification with their billing. Mr. Chairman, the board is being asked to consider appointments to the Yentile Farm Development Committee, which is, as you know from your memorandum back in August, there were a proposal that was adopted by the Board of Selectmen that, among others, one member be appointed by each selectman and one member appointed by the town manager, along with other town officials or designees, as well as a member of the Board of Selectmen designated by the chairman, and the chairman had made that designation at the last meeting of Selectman O'Connell.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up for folks who might not have heard or seen the most previous selectmen's meeting, we'd indicated that tonight we would take this up and primarily for the board to consider an appointment of each selectman rather than taking a vote on various nominations. So at this point, I'd just ask, starting at either end of the table here, if anybody has a name that they want to put forward respectively.
I don't have a problem going first. The one individual that showed an interest was Ed Loud of Vallon Way, so I'd appoint Edward Loud of Vallon Way.
Okay. Mr. Smaglia?
I was approached by a few people, actually, and I'm choosing Ed Rixtons. Many years on the youth soccer board, also including president. I believe he's the president right now this year that we are in. And a lot of residents have expressed an interest of getting involved. Maybe, perhaps, Mr. Chairman, you can explain how other residents can either become a part of the board or will be able to express their opinions and assist on the whole planning of the Yentl Farms property.
Sure, we'll cover a couple of those matters after we make our appointments, but to answer your question directly, I think it's a good point to get out there right now, is that we would expect, after these appointments are made, that with the assistance of the manager, we'll schedule the board's or committee's first meeting. Presumably, they would organize at that point and name a chairman amongst themselves, and then schedule a follow-up meeting, and I presume that one of their first orders of business will be to elicit public participation in any variety of formats they might choose.
I think that'll be very important, Mr. Chairman. There are some members that are residents that have expressed interest to me that I know would do a very good job on this committee and have done on good jobs on many other committees in the past, too. So,
Okay.
very good.
Great. Down here?
So I wanted to make my appointment. I also would like to take a few extra seconds just to give a little bit of a background, just for the public knowledge, because I too was approached by a lot of people. This gentleman actually expressed interest to me proactively. It's with great pleasure that I appoint Mr. Kevin Kyra to the Yentl Farm Development Committee. Kevin's been a resident of the town of Wilmington for just about his entire life. Professionally, he's worked for over 20 years for the Mass State Retirement Board and currently is the retirement administrator for the city of Amesbury. From an athletic perspective, he has many years of experience as a player, parent, and coach relative to various athletic and recreational programs here in the town of Wilmington in sports such as basketball, baseball, softball, football, and bocce. From a community perspective, Kevin has and continues to participate and volunteer in various charity organizations and continues to add to this list of volunteer endeavors whenever an opportunity becomes available, such as the Yentl Farm Development Project. Kevin has been a dedicated and integral member of the Wilmington Sons of Italy for many years. He has served previously as the state president for the Sons of Italy for Massachusetts and is currently the chairman for the Trust Fund for the Wilmington Lodge. Kevin, as well as many of the members of the Sons of Italy, continue to have a long-standing positive relationship with the town of Wilmington, Wilmington Public Schools, high school athletics, the recreational department, and various youth athletic programs. For me personally, I've always known of Kevin, but I have not had the pleasure of working with him hand in hand until recently. Kevin and I both serve as a board member for the Wilmington Athletic Alumni and Friends organization, and he has played a lead role and an integral role in that organization as well. He's been a part of organizations that have helped develop recreational fields such as the North Intermediate Playground, the Woburn Street Playground. He's been part of organizations that have helped donate scoreboards to various fields in the town. He's participated in procurement efforts for the benefit of Wilmington Police and Fire, and he has a long-standing relationship with many organizations in the town. So personally and professionally, I think he'd be an ideal candidate. He's a gentleman, he's a consummate business professional, and quite frankly, he's just a super nice guy. He's enthusiastically interested in this position. He stepped forward, and it's with great pleasure that I appoint him to this position. Thank you.
Wow, that was really well done. I'm going to steal some of them because some of those words also describe the gentleman that I'm going to be appointing as well. I feel like I had an embarrassment of riches. I had a number of folks reach out, and any one of them, all of them, frankly, would have, in my mind, done a very good job on the committee. So at the end of the day, you have to try to figure out how do I differentiate one from the other. The person that I'm going to be appointing is Dan Bamberg. Dan is a longtime resident of Wilmington, has a number of children who've grown up going to Wilmington schools. Dan has coached. He's obviously a parent. He's a finance executive, so he understands the workings of finance and money, and I think will be an integral and important voice in potentially finding finance resources or how to stretch the dollar to get the biggest bang for our buck. He has worked on a number of other organizations throughout Wilmington over the course of the years. He's a very intelligent individual, he's very articulate, also very enthusiastic, and is just a kind person who, in my mind, is accepting of many different points of view without becoming impassioned or controversial. So that being all said, I believe that Dan will do a very nice job, and we will be very well represented in having him participate on this committee. So I'm glad he's accepted that.
Very good. And, I'd like to also publicly thank folks who reached out to me and to folks who submitted their names through the town manager's office for consideration. I've decided to appoint Michael Gracia. Mr. Gracia is an individual who's done quite a bit of work in the last several years in terms of trying to reconcile the interests of various youth sports and field time and field space. And I think he'll be a welcome addition. He's also an individual who is integral in the work that's been done recently over at the Rotary Park. So I think he'll be a welcome addition to that. Mr. Kyer, at this time, do you have your appointment?
Yes, my appointment is Mark Nassif. Mr. Nassif is a respected businessman and entrepreneur who I got to work with many, many years ago when he was involved with both youth soccer and youth lacrosse. He served as president of the youth soccer program. He's instrumental in bringing on the youth lacrosse program in a very cooperative venture with the other groups. He was an integral part of the Shawshene playground program. I can tell you, and he probably would ask me not to, but that he's been a very generous benefactor to many, many programs. I think would be able to certainly ask him to participate in helping to guide the committee as much as possible in terms of fundraising and the like. He's just a smart businessman and family man who's, he and his wife have 3 daughters, all who've participated over the years in Wilmington youth sports activities.
Very well. And the balance of the membership will be designated as set forth in the understanding that the board came to at its last meeting. And I'm sure that once they organize and the manager has assisted in announcing an initial meeting date, that we'll be hearing from whomever that committee elects to chair the committee, and we'll be getting updates on a regular basis. So again, I think the one point that bears mentioning again, though it's repeating myself, is to the point that Mr. Smaglia raised. It's intended, and I'm sure the committee is going to follow through on the idea that this will be a process that invites public participation. So we look forward to that. It's certainly a resource that we want all ages to enjoy and for it to be a true community resource. So thank you all.
The board is being asked to consider ratification of my appointment of Kimberly Nguyen to the Wilmington Historical Commission. Ms. Nguyen had expressed an interest with Carolyn Harris. There is a vacancy on the Historical Commission. I've reviewed her background, which includes the fact that she is a teacher at the Masconomet Regional Middle School and teaches 7th grade ancient cultures. that she's been involved with various historical projects. She was a Master of Education and with a history concentration from the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. This is an appointment that is the town manager's, but it requires ratification by the Board of Selectmen.
Questions, comments, or a motion from the board?
I'll make the motion that we ratify the town manager's appointment of Kimberly Nguyen to the Wilmington Historical Commission.
Second?
Made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor? It's unanimous.
Thank you. Board's being asked to consider approval and acceptance of a conservation restriction and easement for portions of parcels 1 and 1A on Assessors Map R2, McDonald Road Extension. The conservation restriction is being recommended by the Planning Board, the Director of Planning and Conservation. It's been reviewed by Town Council. It is a conservation subdivision. The open space will surround a 26-lot conservation subdivision. The commission determined, the Conservation Commission that is, determined that due to the site's proximity to the Rocco Landfill Superfund site in Tewksbury, a conservation restriction protecting the land in perpetuity would be the most appropriate method to control this particular space. The total land area of the conservation subdivision is just over 60 acres, and about 47.5 of those acres are covered by this restriction. The restriction itself is divided into several parcels with appropriate uses and prohibited uses assigned to the individual parcels. And again, the document has been reviewed both by Town Council and the Department of Conservation and Recreation, and would also require the Secretary of Environmental Affairs' signature, assuming that the board approves the request. And again, it has the approval recommendation of Town Council.
Questions, comments, or a motion?
I would move to approve and accept the conservation restriction and easement for portions of parcels 1 and 1A on Assessors Map R2, McDonald Road Extension.
Second.
We have a motion that's been made and seconded. Further discussion? No, sir, we're not engaging in public we have a motion that's been made and seconded. That's the procedure. We don't entertain discussion at that point. This is a discussion for the board. You're out of order. You're out of order. Motion made and seconded. Anything else? All those in favor? It's unanimous.
Board is being asked to consider the request to install a stop sign at the intersection of Mink Run Road, Pouliot Place, and Sandy Lane. Now, I can tell you that we received the request. Any stop sign request, as you know, has to go to the Board of Selectmen, and so we did receive a request from Mr. Thureen of Pouliot Place, and as is customary, we provide that correspondence to, thank you, excuse me, we provide that correspondence to the Department of Public Works and the Police Department for their review. We have notified Mr. Thureen that that is what needs to happen. And we have a recommendation, in this case a negative recommendation from both the Police Department and the Department of Public Works. They review the request for the installation of the stop sign, but the request of the stop sign at that intersection does not appear to meet the criteria that is established in the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. That manual states that stop signs should not be used for speed control. Therefore, the recommendation that of the request has been denied. The police chief agrees with that recommendation, and so he will instead put additional patrols in that area to see what can be done relative to the enforcement. So I would recommend that the board accept the recommendation of the police chief and the Department of Public Works Superintendent relative to this request.
We have questions, comments, or a motion?
I just have a comment. I'm going to be voting, accepting the police chief's recommendation here. But I also just wanted to articulate that I appreciate and respect the Thoreans. I guess Kyle was the signator of the letter, but I understand it's he and his wife that have articulated their concern about speed at that intersection. And the police chief did make a point to respond in saying that extra attention would be paid to that intersection to police it and to do what can be done to reduce the speed going through there. But again, I appreciate their intent and their desire to try to make the roads safer, and I appreciate them communicating this information to the town. That said, I guess I would move to accept the recommendation of the chief of police and in not placing the requested stop sign at that location.
Motion made. Do we have a second?
Second?
Anything further? All in favor? It's unanimous.
The board is being asked to consider the request of Deborah A. Potter, corporate officer of the Boston Auctions and Antiques, to obtain an annual auctioneer's permit for property located at Suite 11, 355 Middlesex Avenue. And we have favorable recommendations, Mr. Chairman.
Questions, comments, or a motion?
I make a motion that we grant the request.
Second?
Made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor? It's unanimous.
Also, the license renewal at the same time for Vincent Trant Jr. I'm sorry, for Deborah A. Vincent L. Trant Jr., the same in this case, Mr. Chairman.
Move to grant the request of Vincent Trant Jr. to obtain an annual auctioneer's license.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor? It's unanimous.
The board is being asked to consider the request of the Recreation Commission to conduct its 45th Annual Horribles Parade on Sunday, October 28th, where they will ask participants to assemble at the Public Safety Building at 4:30 p.m. on that particular Sunday and proceed to Church Street to the high school cafeteria. The board is again invited to join the festivities either as a spectator or as a volunteer. You're invited to hand out the treats if you'd like, and if so, if you could be at the high school cafeteria at 4 o'clock on that day. But this is a great tradition in Wilmington, and this is, believe it or not, the 45th year that the town will be conducting this particular event. And since it does go down Church Street, we do need to have the board's agreement for the parade assembly.
Have a motion?
I make a motion, we grant the request. I'd also just like to mention Deborah Cipriani and her staff in the rec department for the many years that she's been here, and the wonderful job they do, not only with the horrible parade, but all the stuff they do year-round.
I'll second.
Made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor? It's unanimous.
And the next item on the agenda, I would ask again to be tabled relative to the change in name and owner on the flammable license from Dom's Mobile, property located at 603 Main Street. We're still trying to work out some issues there, Mr. Chairman.
Just as a reminder, at our most previous meeting, we had moved to table that with the expectation that some issues would be addressed. They're not, since the motion specifically said we'd table it to the next meeting. That's why we put it on the agenda. So at that, would like to entertain a motion to move to table until our next regularly scheduled meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Made and seconded. Any further? All in favor? It's unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the regular business before the board.
Public comments? Mr. McDonald?
Yeah, I just have a few questions and concerns. Just appears that Mr. Shampoo was quick to make a motion on the conservation restriction and easement for land on McDonald Road. And I actually grew up on that street, and Mr. Carr mentioned that there was contamination, or he mentioned about the close proximity to the Rockwell landfill. However, we're familiar with the fact that there was quite a bit of contamination down in the McDonald Road area.
Yeah, Mr. McDonald, let me just clarify something for you. What was before the board tonight was in many respects, a procedural vote which enables a conservation restriction to be imposed on private property, in this case, in agreement with the particular property owner. This development has been through planning board under subdivision control. The Conservation Commission has been involved in this project, and as the memorandum to the town manager indicates, this open space, it's the Conservation Commission's determination that specifically, and I'm inserting the word specifically, due to the site's proximity to the Rocco landfill Superfund site in Tewksbury, a conservation restriction protecting the land in perpetuity would be the most appropriate method to control this space. So in direct response to the issue you raised, the town is well aware of the Rocco's landfill contamination, and this is a measure by which the town, through a number of administrative and regulatory processes, is dealing with that. So we're not going to rehash all the work that's been done in that regard. To answer your question, it's been through the process. So we're going to move on to your next public comment, please.
I just wanted to clarify something, because the contamination that I was aware of wasn't on the Rocco's landfill, but was in this area.
I quite understand that, but Mr. McDonald, we've been through.
So you're not interested?
The town is, those are your words, not mine. What I'm telling you is, I'm not interested, I'm not interested in trying to put this project through subdivision control and conservation jurisdiction under public comments of Board of Selectmen's meeting. So please move on.
Yeah, I was just trying to clarify the fact that we're
Mr.
trying to ask
McDonald,
a question.
twice you're out of order.
Would be responsible.
You're out of order twice. I'm not going to tolerate a third time. Would you like to move on, or
Yeah, sure.
please do?
Several months ago, I brought up the fact that we have large underground containment tanks at the highway department, which is right beside our well field supply, and heavy blasting at a quarry is pretty much rocking that area. And I threw out the concern that the possibility exists for these tanks to rupture and us to potentially lose our well field. My question is, what has this board or this administration done to try to make plans to move that system away from our well field?
Mr. McDonald, since the last time you brought this up in public comment, have you brought this matter to either the Water and Sewer Superintendent or the Water and Sewer Commissioners?
I brought the matter to Mr. Hooper for the Public Buildings Department.
Okay.
And I requested a copy of the design of the tanks.
Okay.
And I was told that they could not give that out. So I was told that they were going to be looking into that matter and addressing it, but I've heard nothing. And I'm asking you if you or anybody on this board or in this administration is concerned about it, has done anything about it, or will do anything about it.
Yeah, and I
or will we be waiting until they do rupture and we do lose our well field?
The answer to your question is we will not be waiting for them to rupture. The administration has addressed that matter to the satisfaction of the administration and the Water and Sewer Department. If information wasn't forthcoming to you, I'm sure there was a good reason for it, probably because that kind of information shouldn't be disseminated in an age where we have to defend ourselves from terrorist attacks and the like. So, specific information as to the security of various fuel containers, for example, is probably not the kind of information that we want floating around just to anyone. What I can assure you is that whatever information you were provided would have been done so, or not provided in this case, would have been done so in accordance with the public records law. So I'd encourage, I've answered your question, and...
Would you like to share how you address these situations?
No, not at this time. I'd refer you to the town manager. Your next, no. This is public comments. You need direction. I'm referring you to the manager if you would like to follow up on that.
The last question, I guess, is if a person comes down to the town hall and wants to get a copy of a plan and goes into the engineering department and the engineer is willing to make a copy and the copy is at the desk, ready to make a copy, does the person have to wait 10 days, or should that engineer and Conservation Commission supervisor allow that to be made?
Well, let me ask you this. Certainly, there's a good deal of discretion in various town employees to provide information on the spot or at some future point in time. If by chance the requested records that you might be referring to could be remotely the subject of any pending litigation, then I would fully expect the town's employees would check first to make sure that they're not violating any confidence or compromising the town's position relative to any pending litigation. So, but other than that, the public records request, the public records law is, let me put it this way, the town employees are well informed as to the requirements of the public records law, and they are vigilant in following it.
So if something is a public record, are you saying that if something is relative to an appeal, that public record may not be able to be released?
No, what I'm telling you, Mr. McDonald, is that the town follows the law, and that we're not here to revolve around your time and to make your life simple because it happens to be simple for you at the moment. What I'm telling you is the town of Wilmington recognizes its obligations under the Public Records Law and the Freedom of Information Act, and we are vigilant in following that. If it just so happens that people don't drop what they're doing to assist you, I can't always help you with that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're vigilant. I hope you're as vigilant with those tanks and their vibration, Mr. Lewis. But thank you.
Any other public comment? Yes, Mr. Barton.
Mr. Newhouse, this is just a quick one. I don't know if you have the answer for it or not. I happened to ride by the pumping station in North Wilmington past week. They have a new chain link fence, so curious me, I pulled in. I mean, are we protecting the wetlands from this side, or what comes from the deer coming across from there? I mean, was there a need for that chain link fence?
I'm not familiar with the chain link fence that you're describing. I'll either, excuse me, if you don't mind, Mr. Bodnar, I'll try and run this meeting the way it's supposed to be run. Thank you. I will refer it to Mr. Kyra. If he wants to offer comment, that's fine with me. Otherwise, I'd refer you to him tomorrow, or what other day might be convenient for you, or to Mr. Woods, Water and Sewer Superintendent. You care to comment?
I don't have any
Okay.
information on that, but I'm sure that if a fence was constructed, it was done so for a particular reason. And I think you're right. You certainly are welcome to call Mr. Woods. If for some reason you can't get the answer from him, you're welcome to call me, and I will get the answer for you.
No, Mr. McDonald, you've had your time. Anybody else with public comment? Okay. New business?
I'm good.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, as we're all aware, remember that on September 11, 2001, at 8:46 a.m., 5 hijackers crashed American Airlines Flight 11 into the World Trade Center's North Tower. And at 9:03 a.m., another 5 hijackers crashed United Airlines Flight 175 into the South Tower. 5 hijackers flew American Airlines Flight 77 into the Pentagon. And in a 4th flight, United Airlines Flight 93, under the control of 4 hijackers, crashed near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, southeast of Pittsburgh at 10:03 a.m. after the passengers fought the hijackers. Flight 93's target is believed to have been either the Capitol or the White House. There's an organization called Bugles Across America, and they ensure that all veterans get taps played at all their funerals. And we have a member of that organization right here in Wilmington resident Ken Michaud. And tomorrow, starting at 8:46 a.m., there will be a solemn remembrance at the Wildwood Cemetery in the Veterans Lot in front of PFC John F. Landry's Memorial Cross. PFC John F. Landry Jr. was born in Wilmington, and he was killed in action in Iraq since 9/11. Taps will be sounded at the exact time each aircraft hit its target. We ask if you cannot make it to the Wildwood Cemetery tomorrow, please take a moment to remember the almost 3,000 Americans that perished that day, and to also remember the brave men and women in the military that have given their life in defense of the freedoms that we live our lives in every day. So tomorrow morning, starting at 8:46 a.m., taps will be played all across America, and each time that at the exact time that each one of the flights hit another, the hijackers hit another target.
Thank you for that information, and obviously the general public is invited to join the town and other folks at the cemetery.
Absolutely. And like I said, if they can't make it, please, a moment of silence starting at 8:46 for all the people that perished that day.
Okay, thank you. Anything down here?
Obviously, just like many of us, just remembering 9/11 and just thinking about it, and 11 years goes by, you just don't know where the time goes, and such an unfortunate circumstance for our country. And thank you, Lou, for saying that and for hosting the activities tomorrow. And that's all I have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Lou. Well said. I know Mr. Carr is going to go through important dates in just a few moments, but, I often am asked by various people, whether it's out on the soccer field or just around town, what can I do? Can I get involved in town? And not everyone is inclined to, run for public office or volunteer for a committee that meets frequently. But there are so many different ways to get involved and be a participant in all the various activities that go on throughout town. So, we already heard about one tonight. It's the community fair that takes place on the 22nd. That's sponsored by the Wilmington Library. And what a tremendous way to go and learn about all the various volunteer and organizations that are active and doing great things around the community. On the 23rd, it's a busy weekend, you'll hear about the half marathon and 5K walk that is being sponsored by the Wilmington Chamber of Commerce. This is for everyone. You don't have to be physically fit. You don't have to be, a competitor. You can be really just anyone who wants to just go for a walk and be out with your fellow members of the community. You'll hear about the, we've heard about the Horribles Parade, so that's just a whole hoot of fun. In fact, I'm planning on dressing up as former Town Manager Mike Kyra for that, so that'll be fun. And you'll hear about the fall cleanup. What a wonderful way to go and help make our community more beautiful, and that's taking place on September 22nd from 8 to 1 p.m. And let's just go out and pick up litter and trash and do so side by side with your neighbors and your fellow community members. I know there's other important dates that Mr. Carr will talk about, but if you want to be a part of this community and be involved in this community, pick any one of these or pick all of them and go and participate and be a part of the community. Thank you.
Just want to know if you're going to shave your head the way he wore that blonde wig.
I'm going as Mr. Carr 35 years ago.
Important dates, please. Yeah. Important dates.
Okay. Just to remind folks, the Farmers Market continues to hold their fair at the Town Common parking lot every Sunday now through September 30th, from beginning at 10:30 and ending at 1:30. As was mentioned, the community fair is Saturday the 22nd, beginning at 10 a.m. at the Town Common. September 22nd, the annual town cleanup, as was mentioned by Selectman Shampoo. Those that are interested in the Conservation Commission and joining the Conservation Commission's fall cleanup can meet at the DPW building at 135 Andover Street, where they will be dispatched to various parks and streams to remove man-made debris at various sites. If you have hip boots, you're welcome to bring them. We'll supply the gloves and the bags. Again, that's Saturday the 22nd from 8 to 1 p.m. or any time in between that you have. Again, as was mentioned, the Chamber of Commerce is hosting the Wilmington's 8th Annual Half Marathon and 5K Run or Walk, which has become a wonderful event that ends up providing many dollars to various charitable groups, including scholarships. The board next meets on the 24th, and at that time, you are reminded that at 7 p.m. will be the public hearing for the Glen Road Middlesex Avenue intersection improvement project. And finally, for those that are interested, we are hosting the National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day at the Public Safety Building. That's on September 29th. That is a Saturday, the last Saturday in September, where you can bring your old medicines anonymously and drop them off at the Public Safety Building. That concludes important dates, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, at that, we would entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing pending litigation relative to DEP appeal OADR docket number WET 2012, cases 20 and 21, and contract negotiations with non-union personnel not to return to open session.
So moved. Second?
Made and seconded. Anything further? I'll take a roll call vote. All in favor?
Yes.
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 And yes, it's unanimous.